All right, guys, so welcome back to Trinity Training. What I'm going to show you next is a really important concept that you got to master, because if you do this, it's just like a whole presentation in itself. It disturbs and intrigues, and it gets the client to think exactly where it is that you're going to be able to help them, okay? So master it. So this is the way it goes. So Mr. and Mrs. Klein, if we're going to help you financially, it's almost like if we're going to help you build your house, we got to make sure that it gets built the right way, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do, Mr. Klein, is we're going to look at how you see, to see how you're doing with your debt. Because we got to get you to the point where we get you financially independent, where you're debt free. So I don't know how you're doing with your debt or not, but how would you feel if you could be completely debt free and we could build a very strong, solid wall where you don't owe any money to anybody? So that's going to be our main outcome. The second outcome that we're going to have is we're going to take a look and see how you're doing with your emergency fund and get you to the point where this strong is very solid. Why? Because now you have 3 to 6 months of savings. And if you ever need any money, if you ever need anything, you know you got enough money for a rainy day. We're also going to look at see how you're doing with your wall. For your roof. So your roof is your investments. So if you already have a 401k, if you already have an IRA, whatever it is that you have, we're going to make sure that we look at that and see how that's doing and make sure that it's going to get you to your FIT number, which is financial independence number. But the other thing that we're going to look at is your foundation, because if I were to ask you what's the most important part of your house, is it the roof, the walls, or the floor? What would you say it is? Well, obviously the floor, right? The foundation. So when people ask me that, what's your foundation? Have you been okay financially? What I tell them, look, there's a couple things that is your foundation, but it's basically broken down in one, and it's basically one simple concept called insurance. Why an insurance, you might ask? Well, let me tell you why. Because let's say you don't have a health insurance, and you were to pay, so you got sick, you end up at the hospital, you end up with the ambulance picking you up, and you ended up spending a couple of days, God forbid you have a surgery. How much is your bill going to be? A lot, right? Because look at this, you can be debt free, you can have money saved, you can have $100,000 in your 401k, but if you don't have health insurance, guess what happens to your house? It all comes crashing down. So the other thing that you got to look at is see how you're doing with your life insurance. Because your family's counting on you. Your family's making sure that, hey, as you're working hard, as you're building this house, as you're getting rid of your debt, as your emergency fund is growing, as your future income is growing, if something were to happen to you, you don't want this house to come crashing down on your family, and now your family has to start building all over again. But if you're a responsible parent, if you're responsible, then you actually left something behind for your family so they can continue building that house and making sure they don't struggle when the house comes crashing down. Because we're not ever going to take the pain of losing a family member, but at least we could take the financial pain. Make sense? Yeah. So the other thing, Mr. Klein, the other thing that you got to consider is something called living benefits or long-term care. Because there's another thing that destroys a lot of families financially is sometimes you don't pass away. But sometimes as you're building this house again, as you're getting debt free, as you're building your future income, you actually end up getting sick. You end up with cancer, heart attacks, strokes, dementia. I mean, there's so many things that you could end up with that you don't no longer could work. And guess what's going to happen? Again, you could have $500,000 saved. You could be debt free. You could have a little bit of money saved at the bank. But if you end up in a hospice care, you're paying $8,000 to $9,000 to $10,000 a month for care. How long is that going to last you? You can have a house that is paid for, and it's all going to come crashing down if you don't have this type of benefit. So you need long-term care, you need living benefits. So in case you were to get sick, you don't have to use your money. You don't have to sell your house. You don't have to get rid of your 401ks. You don't have to get rid of your emergency fund. You don't have to get into a lot of debt anymore. You can actually use the insurance money. So Mr. and Mrs. Klein, what we're going to do for you today is we're going to see where your holes are at. And we're going to make sure that we build you a strong house that has a really good foundation. And eventually what all this house is going to do is give you peace of mind. So when you're in this house, you have a big happy smile and you have a great future because your house is built the right way financially. See you later.